everybody. Good morning. I'm so glad you guys came. Sorry about last week. Sorry there was a confusion on the date. It's today, and I'm glad you guys made it. Just preface, this is not in replace of medical advice. If you want to talk this stuff over with your doctor, please do. A little bit about me. My name is Crystal Chester, and I'm a registered dietitian, state licensed nutritionist, and I practice clinically at Stonecrest Medical Center in Smyrna. That's where I'm in charge of the tube feedings and TPNs and more of the critical care kind of stuff. But I started my own practice last year because I love helping people from actually having to go to the hospital. That's what I actually love to do. My husband and I are from Dallas, Texas. We have 3 kiddos, and last year Grandma moved in, so now we have a house of 6. When I first moved here, I was in DFW, and I was like, this place is like Leave It to Beaver. I loved the fast pace. I loved the concrete jungle as much as people are like, really? But I loved it. But as so has it, we have doubled the size of our house, and now the craziness moved inside the house versus outside the house. Come on in.
I apologize.
You're fine.
Here's
Have an outline.
oh, okay. Just one? Yeah, just one.
I graduated from Lipscomb University. Anybody from Lipscomb here? Or have family that went to Lipscomb? Yeah, cool. I didn't know Lipscomb existed until I moved here, but I love it now. It was a really good school. Okay, so let's just dig in. What are the adrenal glands? The adrenal glands are just a couple of little lumps that are on top of your kidneys back there. They're really tiny. They're orange. They're triangle shaped and they're spongy. Even though they're small, they have a lot of duties, but they're only the size of about a sugar cube on each one, and about the weight of about a couple of paper clips. So they're tiny, but they regulate so many different things in our bodies, along with the pineal gland, the ovaries, testicles, the pancreas. They're all part of the endocrine system that's really needed for your hormones. The roles that they play. One of them, they regulate other hormones. It's super cool because the thyroid can't work. The other hormone-making glands can't work without the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland produces cortisol. And cortisol is like what holds the key to the cells. And so other hormones are produced, say, by the thyroid, and they need to go in the cells. Well, they can't until cortisol unlocks it for them and lets them in. And the same thing is if the hormones need to come out of the cell, the cortisol has to be there to let them out. So that's kind of cool. It's part of the hormone system. It's also in charge of turning off the inflammatory response. So you bonk your elbow, you maybe get a cut or a bruise, and you see the redness and you see the swelling, it kind of hurts to move. That's the acute inflammatory response. And once everything has been repaired, the cut is fixed, the adrenals are in charge of turning the inflammatory response off. So it's like, okay, all things good, turn it off so you're not constantly inflamed around that area. It's also really important when it comes to your circadian rhythms, the rhythms that are needed whenever you sleep. It actually pairs up with the pineal gland, because the pineal gland secretes melatonin. So a lot of times when people can't sleep, they reach for melatonin. Well, they work kind of side by side. But the pineal gland gives you that, and the adrenal gland gives you cortisol. So the pineal gland helps you sleep, and cortisol goes low so the melatonin can come up, and then cortisol rises to help you wake up. It also, what it's mainly known for is the fight or flight. If you're in danger, it gets you out of there real quick. Stress helps you with that as well. Also, if there is a famine, those kick in. But now we have more stressors in our lives. We almost are in like a constant state of low-level stress, where like our grandparents and our ancestors didn't experience that like we did. This is kind of why adrenals get taxed so easily in our culture. And glucose levels and weight. So if you skip a meal, you miss a meal, and your blood sugar goes down, well, cortisol is raised to help raise your blood sugar. Now, if your adrenals are doing a good job and they're strong, the pancreas does most of that. But if it's not, that means cortisol can really kind of spike up, and so can your blood sugar. And that's what makes you cranky. That's that feeling you get, a hangry feeling whenever you skipped a meal. That's kind of what's going on internally. So they're not, as all of us know, when we try to multitask and we got all this stuff on our plate, like they have a switch. So they have a fat switch and a fuel switch. And so the fuel switch is if we have, low level of stress, we're getting good sleep, we have low inflammation, it's on the fuel switch, meaning that the carbohydrates that you take in, the food you take in, it's going to your muscles, it's going to your liver, so you can use it as energy. You're using it to function. But whenever you have high stress, you're not sleeping well, you're over caffeinated, if you wake up and you feel like you just have to have that cup of coffee, that's whenever it can go into the fat switch, because it senses that you're stressed and it's a fight or flight organ, so it's like, okay, she or he, is going to have to fight or use her muscles really soon, so it's going to store that energy in fat, because if your muscles are going to be used, it can't be absorbing while it's working. Does that make sense? So it stores it for later. Okay. And so then the fuel switch turns off and the fat switch turns on. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. I'm not losing y'all, right? Okay. Oh, and I was going to say, let's hold all questions to the end, because this can get real. Try not to get too nerdy on y'all. Get you with the biology and stuff. Okay, so how do they get off course? How do the adrenals get out of whack? Well, one is processed food. The standard American diet, full of fat, full of sugar, full of especially fructose. Anything in a box, most things that are in a box or a package have added fructose. Who here knows about high fructose corn syrup? Right, everybody? Okay. Well, they add that because it's addicting, and now they know that sugar can be more addicting than cocaine. Well, manufacturers know that, and they want you to love their product, so they add sugar to it. And fructose, out of all the sugars, out of sucrose and glucose, and that one is the sweetest, so they use that one. But fructose is the main sugar that is in fruit. But it's almost impossible to get too much fructose when you're just eating fruit. It's the stuff that they put into the packages that really do damage to your digestive system. And a little exception to that, agave nectar has more fructose than high fructose corn syrup. Just a little side note there. So always do honey instead of agave nectar. Second one, in the whole processed food thing, toxic proteins are a big one, because the way we process foods these days, like the way we process our dairy, the way we process our wheat, way back in 1980 they figured out a way to make wheat grow faster and shorter than ever before. So we usually think of wheat as like growing in the wind, kind of weighing in the wind sort of thing. It's actually a lot shorter and it grows twice as fast. But it's created new strands of wheat that you never see in nature. And same thing goes with the gluten. And it disrupts your digestion, and it causes inflammation for a lot of people. So that triggers the survival mode. We're told we eat a lot of this stuff, and it puts our body in like a survival mode. There's something lurking around in there, which triggers.
Could you repeat that? What was that you're talking about right now?
Gluten?
Oh, gluten.
Yeah.
Gluten was what you said.
Yeah. I was like, which part?
Toxic. The gluten is under toxic proteins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As well as with the casein in the dairy and the albumin in eggs. And so it's believed that this is the reason why like food allergies are on the rise, like shellfish and peanuts. It's like many-fold just in the past decades. And a lot of us think we don't need to stay away from certain foods because when we eat them, we don't like keel over or maybe go into anaphylaxis. But what it's really doing is it's an underlying like response to where it's causing internal problems, but you may not instantly feel bloated or anything else like that. It's okay. Okay. So that can cause the immune response to trigger, and the adrenal glands go into that fight mode because it senses an invader. It can't process those correctly for many people. Also, a lot of these processed foods cause a disruption in your intestinal flora, and the intestinal flora, the bad bacteria can be overgrown, or the good bacteria could just be wiped out completely just because of these processed foods. Our foods have more antibiotics in them that kill all the good flora and the bad flora, but you got to have good flora to have a strong immune system. Okay. Second one, so we talked about one way is the processed foods, and the second way is environmental pollutants. Kind of along the same lines of like the toxic proteins, we also have toxic chemicals. Ever since the 1900s, we've had 3 million synthetic chemicals brought into the world since 1900. It's crazy. But one that we really have to worry about, like in our culture, is the BPA. Anybody familiar with BPA?
Baby bottles?
Yeah.
Plastics?
Yeah, BPA lining. Well, it's also, I think mostly they kind of get it now with like water bottles. Hardly ever do I see a water bottle that doesn't have BPA free. But it's also in the lining of cans. So canned beans, canned tomatoes, corn, all that kind of stuff. It's usually in that canned lining. And I tell people, if you have to buy canned stuff, just don't buy canned tomatoes, because canned tomatoes, the acid in the tomatoes, that breaks down the BPA lining, so it's even more in the actual tomatoes that you dump into like your chili or something. But the beans and stuff isn't acidic, so it's not going to leach that stuff in there. But yes, a study in 2002 out of the UK, they took 17 people who actually had abdominal surgeries, kind of like maybe like a gastric bypass, or maybe some, not a gastric bypass, but where they took off the abdominal fat, and they found that every single one of those people, when they examined the fat tissue, had BPA stored in their fat cells, and that it was also it also created abnormal cell growth. They didn't really go into like what that meant, but abnormal fat cell growth. I don't want any of that. And even the people who had the smallest amount of BPA in those cells still showed that characteristic, that it was changing the hormonal structure inside those cells. So I found that pretty interesting. And also light pollution.
Well, what's bad is the babies that have been fed with all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but our bodies are really well made to where, you get it out of there and it can take care of itself. So you can always reverse it.
Did you say that the BPAs are also in the soft drink cans, or just the cans on the grocery, like the canned vegetables? Are they in
any type of can?
Any type of can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's as far as I understand it. Yeah, any type of can. That metal aluminum lining in there. In some of the organic cans, you'll find somewhere on there very small, not lined with BPA.
Okay.
Okay. Along with the environmental pollutants, we have light pollution. Too much of this light, not enough of that light. And the adrenals are super sensitive when it comes to light. They actually found that it can tolerate a lot more aerial light, but something above your eye level, like down here, it stimulates your adrenal glands. And isn't that what we do? We have our phones, and we're doing this like all day before bed. We're laying down and we're doing that. So we have way too much of that that's constantly stimulating our adrenal glands, not helping us sleep. That means the adrenals don't get to recover, and we're wiped out. Okay, in 3, the pressure of modern life. So how adrenals get out of whack: processed foods, environmental toxins, and of course the pressures of modern life. Some studies show that since 1980, our pressures of modern life have gone up like 30%. Yeah, like look how far we've come, like technology-wise, and we practically don't even have to move from our couch, because you could work from home. It's crazy how simple things have become, but how much more pressure we're living with. Okay. Oh, a study of 54,000 women. They were tracked over 15 years, and they found that they tracked their weight periodically through this 15 years, and they gave them questionnaires on their stress level. And constantly the data proved that the higher stress they were, the bigger they actually were. So stress directly plays a part in that. And then of course you have to think sometimes, well, our food is addicting. Like we have more salt in our food, more fat in our food, more sugar in our food, which all makes it better, which makes you want it more. But I found it interesting that brain scientists say that you are more susceptible to the food addiction part when you are on a higher level of stress. And so, you know, sometimes people they get stressed out at work, and of course you grab the salty stuff if you're more of a salty girl or guy, or the sugary stuff to make you feel better. And then actually that makes you more susceptible to really being hooked on the sugar and the salt and the fat. Okay, so enough about that, how it gets out of whack. Let's talk about how to reset it and get it back on track. So most people that have difficulties with their adrenals is because the adrenal rhythms are off. Their cortisol levels are off. So naturally, your cortisol levels need to be higher in the morning. That's what wakes you up. That's what gets you going in the morning. And then they're going to slowly taper as the day goes on to almost like really low come dinner time. And we're thinking just on a regular kind of day, you know, starting at 8 a.m. and ending at 9 or 10 sort of thing. So that's how they're supposed to be. And many studies have shown that, like, okay, so if cortisol reacts to carbohydrates, so can you control your cortisol levels with carbohydrates? And with this theory, there have been many studies out there to test it, and it has worked. By doing a carbohydrate cycle, you can actually reset your adrenal rhythms. But first, one thing was good to do is to eliminate all of those highly inflammatory foods from the diet, or at least reduce them. We were talking before, and I know a lot of people in here, or at least a few that we were talking to, were reducing the amount of gluten in their diet, which is great. It's great, you know, like just keep going for it. Some people, I feel like only maybe like 10% of people on the planet can really just stop something cold turkey and actually like stay on that path. If you just reduce it, then that will reduce the amount of inflammation, and it can start working, you know, better, even though you can't do 100%. So, of course, wheat, gluten. If you're eating things out of a box, it's going to be really hard. If you're eating things like, you know, just whole fruits or rice or quinoa, beans, you know, any kind of vegetable, it's a lot easier because those things naturally don't have any gluten in them. But when it comes to like packaged foods, they do. They add it there. It's a filler. They put it in so many different things. And there's different names, not really different names for wheat, but like we were saying, like malt actually has wheat in it, that kind of thing.
So anything like that maltodextrin is a wheat?
Yeah.
Caramelized also.
Yeah, caramel has it in there. But sometimes I've seen like parentheses, not made from or gluten-free caramel. You know, I always just tell people, find your favorite products, because really people only eat a combination of 12 to 15 different things. You think breakfast is a typical, you know, 2 or 3 different things, lunch is 3 to 5 different things, and dinner is usually more liberal. But if you look at your whole picture, what you typically eat, like our family kind of sticks with Mexican food. You know, it can be either taco salad or we'll make tacos, you know, Taco Tuesday. That's easy for my family, and it's easy to be gluten-free when you're going tacos. But looking at the big picture, it's like find those foods that you know are gluten-free, then you don't have to worry about it so much.
How does pork fit into all this?
We'll talk about it at the end. Yeah. Hold all your questions till the end.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Okay, and dairy as well. Dairy, yeah, because of casein. We've all heard of casein. We've heard of whey. Casein is the one that it's mainly because of the pasteurization process. During the pasteurization process, it's what manufacturers do to kill everything that could be lurking in there before it reaches our refrigerator. But they have to hold it at a really high temperature, around, if I remember, about 150 degrees for like 45 minutes, and it just can't withstand that kind of temperature for that long. And so it denatures the casein, that protein particle in there. That's why a lot of people, you hear of like dairy intolerance, they just can't handle it. That's kind of what's going on. Eggs as well. Even if you feel like some of this stuff, you know, you feel like, you know, it's not a problem for you, experiment with it. You know, take it out for 2 or 3, I'd say more than that, like 3 or 4 weeks, and just see how you feel. See if it works. Because again, we're not looking for like, sometimes it's not anaphylaxis, sometimes it's not like instant bloating, sometimes it can be like your adrenals are just feeling it, you know, and you had no idea that it was because of an egg.
What is albumin, and is it?
That's the protein.
That is
so
the
like the
protein
casein is the protein in dairy.
Dairy, albumin is protein.
Yeah.
And why whole cooked versus scrambled or soft eggs?
Oh, I just meant like, not like the,
Not like hard boiled.
not like just, don't worry, or it's not like just like the yolk or just like the white. Albumin's in the whole egg.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Soy is not recommended because it's really high in estrogen, and estrogen is a hormone. And it's really, really high, hard on the thyroid. It has been found to disrupt thyroid function and hormone function. And so actually, and people have asked me before, like, well, how is it such a staple of like health in like the Asian countries? Well, they don't eat the same kind of soy we do. We stick with like tofu or the stuff that's added to everything. They have fermented soy, so like tamari. So if you do soy sauce, do tamari, because tamari is the fermented soy, and it's not as high in estrogen and all that kind of stuff.
What
So,
about like just the edamame, you know, like the pods, you know?
also stress and sleep. So stress, really good. I have heard of studies, I've heard them, I haven't read them, but I've heard of studies that the most successful people and the most, you know, less stressed parents are parents that like take off about an hour to an hour and a half a day. They do something that doesn't involve media, doesn't, you know, kind of just really disconnects them from their world. And it could be, you know, working out or yoga, or just having lunch with a friend that you don't do all the time. Coloring books. Anybody got into the coloring book thing? Yeah, do you like it? Yeah, like that's cool. I was listening to a podcast and he said, I read a book for an hour every day. But he did it at lunch just because that's how he could fit it in. You know, I can't fit it in at lunch. I do my stuff in the morning, but really just, you're not going to miss anything in an hour. You know, it's really going to be like a good therapy session to do that. And sleep. So you're going to be cycling your carbohydrates. We'll talk about that here in a minute. To help your adrenal cycles, but also just helping yourself get better rest. One thing I highly recommend people do is at least 30 minutes before you go to bed, preferably 60, but if you can only start with 30, or if you can only start with 20, I'll accept that too. But disconnect from anything that has a screen before you go to bed. Remember that the adrenals are stimulated particularly at things below eye level. So you're still affecting your circadian rhythms, you're still, you know, affecting your sleep. So take a warm bath, read a book, do some easy stretching, do whatever, but really less screen time before you actually hit the sack will be better. You can actually get back into normal cycles here. Okay, so when we're talking about the carb cycling, I don't recommend any type of calorie counting. I think it's unrealistic. Is anybody going to count carbs or count calories their entire life? No. Like, it's just not going to happen. Should you be conscious of portion sizes? Absolutely, because we live in a portion distortion world. So, I mean, I have programs that I have people on, and just about every program I have, actually every program I have, 1 week we just dedicate to portioning out and like measuring out our food, and I always do it with them. And every single time, my portions are off, and it's like, oh, I forgot. You know, even though I know, like a serving of brown rice is half a cup. Well, I haven't measured it in a while. I'm like, oh, you know, I have been adding more of this and that. So just be conscious of portion sizes. Okay, so just to go back again, natural cortisol rhythms and adrenal rhythms, higher in the morning. That's what wakes you up, and it slowly goes down so you can rest. So you can rest at night. And so in the morning, in the United States, we kind of have a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast. It's cereal, and it's juice, and it's toast, and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's just going to cause a crash later because naturally, your cortisol cycles are higher in the morning. So you don't want to add more carbs, and you don't want to put more carbs in your blood because there's already a lot going on in there because it's waking you up. So you want to do a heavy protein breakfast in the morning. And studies have shown that it really helps level out your blood sugar, also helps with cognitive function. People are sharper, they have more lasting energy through the day. So it's not like carbohydrates aren't allowed at all in the morning, but just think more protein heavy versus carbohydrate heavy. Okay? Lunch is about a palm serving of starch. You want to do a lean protein and minimal fat. So when you're out and about, or if you're eating away from home, think more of a broth-based soup and a salad. Or you could do a gluten-free wrap, or even like a stir fry. Do some type of stir fry with a lean protein and half a cup of brown rice. The easiest way to do lunch is just to prepare for it the night before. If you want to, I always just say, if you already have the cutting board out and you already have everything out that you're doing for dinner, just put some away. Just have it already there. It's easier than trying to figure it out the next morning or having to drag all that stuff back out and then put it in Tupperware or whatever. Just do it the night before. It makes it so much easier. Anybody in here a snacker? Yeah, me too. Me too. I can't do it from lunch all the way to dinner. And when I got off gluten, then it's kind of changed to the crunchy salty, and then of course I grabbed chips, and I was like, well, this isn't any better. But when it comes to snacks, just think of it as an opportunity to get more vegetables in. If I have baby carrots next to me in my lunch pail or on the run, I will eat them. But if I don't have them right next to me, I won't eat them. I'll go grab like a little bag of chips. I know I shouldn't, but that's what I do. But I've learned that if it's there, just like with kids, if it's in their face, they're more likely to eat it. And same thing goes with us. One of my other favorite ones too is, anybody ever had raw okra? Yeah. Yeah. I always get a weird look when they're like, raw okra? Like in the South? I'm like, I know, but try it. But I do the raw okra. I kind of have, like I said, we do taco stuff a lot. But I put a little Tony Chachere's in there, like a little spice, and then carrots. And you get like a sweet, spicy thing. That's what I do. But it really does help hold you over. And you're not going to overdo it on carrots or celery or anything else like that. It'll really fill you up, to help you get to dinner. Also, any kind of shakes or smoothies, if you are at home, you can just, use your NutriBullet or, what's the other one? Vitamix? Is there another one out there everybody talks about?
Some Ninja something.
Yeah, the Ninja one. I have a bullet. I like mine, but, okay. We're almost done. And dinner's usually easy for most people. We usually have like a lean protein, a vegetable. So the carb cycling, breakfast, you want to think about a golf ball size of carbohydrate, mostly protein. And so at lunch, you're thinking about like 2 golf ball sizes of carbohydrate, and at dinner, you're thinking about 3 golf ball sizes. So it doesn't take much. So if you've ever tried to really watch your weight or to try to lose weight, it's like we're stuck on this no carbs after 3. Nope, Well, that actually doesn't help your sleeping rhythms because your cortisol is at its lowest, your adrenal rhythms are at its lowest, so it actually needs a little bit of carbohydrates, slow burning carbohydrates, to get you through the night. So if you tend to wake up at night, not wanting to, in the middle of the night, you just kind of wake up, it could be, and you have like adrenal kind of troubles, it could be because your cortisol is just going too low and it senses that, and so it spikes up to wake you up. That's supposed to happen more like towards, like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. when you need to wake up, but it's doing that during the day. So adding a little bit more carbohydrate at night can actually help you sleep better throughout the day. So let's talk about, real quick, a sample meal plan. Just breakfast through dinner. So breakfast, we're thinking high protein, a little bit of fat, a little bit of carbs, so maybe like a low carb muesli, a green protein shake, because I actually found that you can do a protein shake with your favorite protein powder, your greens, fourth cup of like berries, but also if you put black beans in there, you can't even taste it. You put like a handful of black beans in there, and it's like really cold. I know. Like I saw somebody do it, and I was like, I'm not putting that in there. But I decided to try it. It's like you can't even taste it, and it really does keep you fuller longer because it's a slow burning carbohydrate. It's interesting. Y'all try it. Experiment with it. Lunch, kind of like I mentioned before, I was like a gluten-free wrap or maybe some stir fry. If you got to swing by somewhere, Jason's Deli or something, could give like a broth-based soup and a salad. Now they have the salmon salad. I haven't tried it yet, but that's a good option. Snack time is anytime you can just throw, just pack some baby carrots or celery or things like that. Dinner time, what did I have ready for today? Oh, I was gonna make zucchini noodles with shrimp and a cashew cream based thing on top of it. So that's kind of an example. I'll probably have to add some more carbohydrate, just like one more serving of carb to that. So that's an example of a dinner. Or just do your lean protein like a grilled chicken, side of broccoli, and a small potato. Potatoes you can actually, if you boil them, it reduces the glycemic index so it doesn't spike your blood sugar as fast. And if you boil them and then refrigerate them, so if you use them for leftovers the next day, it actually reduces the absorption rate by 75%. And so, for a long time, people were like, can't have anything white. Mm-hmm. And I always think, how can I get around this? I was raised salad. Yeah. I was raised in Texas. Oh yeah, potato salad. There you go. Gotta have our potatoes every once in a while, so that's how you do it.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. As far as the carbs and the carb cycling, is there a difference for the quality of carbs? Like if I eat a bunch of, say, oranges or something like that in the evening versus I tend not to eat much rice or anything like that. Is that equal for my adrenals? Mm-hmm. Pretty much? Okay. And so then if I don't eat the rice, but I need carbs and have this little chocolate, is that kind of, it does
depends
the same
on how much
thing.
sugar's in the chocolate.
Well,
like is it 85% or is it like milk chocolate?
No, it's like the dark chocolate. But I mean, is it any kind of carb at that point? Is it any kind of carb late in the...
You really want it to be the slowest burning carbohydrate because you don't want to do like a white piece of bread and it spike and then go back down because then you're not really helping.
Right.
And so like brown rice or quinoa or a boiled potato or oranges have a lot of fiber, and so the more fibrous it is, the longer it's going to take to digest, and it will become slower, So, or a fourth cup of blueberries, or like a small orange. Okay, that'd be totally fine too. If you're doing like a small orange and super dark chocolate, the super dark chocolate's going to have hardly any. It's very little in sugar, so you could still have a square of that. That's not going to make or break anything. Okay. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
On the dinner, it says no more than 1.5 cups. So when you go back to saying that you should have a serving size of a half a cup of brown rice, then you're saying 1 cup should be other carbohydrates?
No, you can have it. It can be whatever kind you want. If you want more variety, you can. So you're thinking like at breakfast you want about a golf ball size of carb, lunch 2, dinner 3. And if you're just, you're loving stir fry or something, you want, a cup and a half of brown rice, go for it. Yeah, but as long as it is slow burning carbs, you're good. Like she just might want half a cup of brown rice and then she might want her orange on the side. To each their own. It's just looking at the whole picture of kind of what you have for dinner or what you have at that meal. So this is a lot to absorb, and I always tell people just start with one thing. So we talked about getting off all inflammatory foods. More protein in the morning, disconnecting before you go to bed. If you can only do one thing, do one thing. If you're already gluten-free, start taking out dairy slowly, or the soy, whatever you think it is, because our bodies are so well designed to, if you just reduce some of the inflammation or eliminate some of the problem, you'll start thriving. It's not like you have to do a whole 180 from here to get back to normal. It's like, no, take small steps that you can live with, that will start being your routine, and then you'll start, developing a better lifestyle where your adrenals can keep up with everything. Yeah, cool. What other questions y'all have?
You said something about corn?
Yes. Corn's gluten-free, but corn is not very slow. It's not a slow burning carbohydrate. So I just had like one.
It seems to bother me.
And if something bothers, these are just like the main ones. Some other people have, like that. So I would say if you know that there's some inflammation, do what?
Corn is in everything.
It's gonna be a lot like gluten. It's gonna be like just just eating more whole foods versus that kind of stuff.
Corn genetically modified like wheat is?
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible for you.
Yeah. Corn's one of the highest GMO foods.
Yeah, I mean, when you read about what they've done to corn and how they've introduced stuff and really.
Which is no wonder why she feels bad. That's why so many people, that's why, like, nobody ever really heard of celiac disease until they started messing with
different names for it.
for corn.
It doesn't just say corn. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like-
Yeah, maltodextrin and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. And so when you start getting rid of gluten in corn and stuff like that, you'll start noticing instead of your handheld stuff that we have, like with wraps and with sandwiches, things become more in a bowl. You take bowls everywhere. You have salads, you have soups, you have chili, you have. That's a good example. You have bowls.
Or we get creative with like the soft flour and all this other stuff to make it.
Yeah, you can, but you have to be careful with like potato starch or potato flour or tapioca flour because those are simple sugars. You know, they'll spike your blood sugar pretty quick. You know, but you can also add more fiber to it. You know, add some chia seeds to it, or just even like fiber powder to it to help counteract that carbohydrate that's fast, because fiber will slow it down.
Can I ask, I've kind of been doing paleo, which is kind of gluten-free
Right.
on steroids, and it's been really great because I've noticed an immediate difference. I don't crave sugar. Once you stop eating that stuff, your body doesn't crave it, so it's easier to stay away from it. Is there anything paleo that really is counterintuitive for adrenal health? Simply because I don't eat the rice, I don't eat potatoes.
I think it's all just the timing of it.
Okay.
You know, just making sure that you get heavy protein in the morning, and then you know just heavier carbs at night, but still making sure you don't. You know, she said have pasta every night. No. Or
Wine's a carb, right? It's a fermented berry.
That's what the dietitian said. No. Yeah.
Quinoa pasta.
Quinoa, I do a lot of quinoa.
Quinoa
Yeah.
pasta. Yeah.
Do you try onion wheat cereal?
No, but I eat the, like the oatmeal squares because they're oatmeal. And then
Well, most oatmeal has gluten.
It
Unless
does?
it says gluten free. Yeah.
It's processed in the same facility, most of them, that like other cereals are. So that's why if you're really trying to make sure you don't get a molecule of gluten, then get gluten free.
how can buckwheat be gluten free?
It's not wheat.
It's not wheat.
What is it?
It messes with you. It's a different kind of grain. It just doesn't have gluten in
This
it.
is the green.
Where can
It's
I-
actually a
When you're on a paleo diet, they don't allow any grains.
Right,
Just
but they
meat
like to
and
have a-
vegetables and fruit, nuts.
I've had clients that have gone completely gluten-free, but they don't worry about the trivial stuff. Like, they're not going to spend the extra $3 on gluten-free oats. They're going to get the regular oats. And they have, really healed their gut to where now they can, if they need to run the subway, they don't have any symptoms. But they did that for like 6 months, as strict as they could, but didn't, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't crazy with it, I guess you could say. Yes, ma'am?
Do you think gluten-free products cause inflammation? Because they're grain?
They could. Gluten-free
Yeah.
products are not good. You know, they're usually void of nutrients, void of fiber, and it's just this starchy mess that they just kind of put together.
Yeah.
I did an experiment when I was in college to become a dietitian, because I like to experiment with diets. So one month I was a diabetic. I made myself type 1 for 2 weeks and type 2 for another week, so I could know what it's like to walk that walk and prick myself all the time. Well, for another month I did celiac, and I experimented with the products and all this other stuff, and I gained 3 pounds in 4 weeks, and I was ravenous all the time. And so now it's like, oh, because I was looking at all the products and there's no fiber, there's no nutrients, and my body was still like, I don't know what this garbage is, but you're not meeting what we need. So it was telling me, it was driving my hunger to keep eating. And yeah, so the proper way to go gluten-free is to just replace all of your gluten-containing foods with fruits and vegetables. So instead of like crackers, you do like carrots or celery sticks. Instead of pasta, you can do like eggplant. Have like mini pizzas. They're actually really good. Or like we were saying, if you don't want to do like a product, I really like the zucchini pasta that you spiralize.
Spaghetti squash.
Yeah, spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash is another good one. And
Broccoli.
spaghetti squash fills you up like
You
crazy.
can spiralize broccoli stems.
Yeah, somebody told me that. I haven't tried it yet. It was? Yeah, because I thought, like, really? I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about pasta, and then also said something about products that are gluten-free. So is gluten-free pasta not good?
It's going to have very little fiber in it, so it's going to be more of a fast acting when it comes to just your blood sugar.
Because they're made from corn, right? Gluten-free.
Some corn,
brown
some
rice.
quinoa, some brown rice. They're getting real creative with it now. But it.
Semolina, I think, is supposed to be less wheat or something, right?
Semolina still has gluten. Yeah. And so if you're going to have that pasta, just really watch your portion control. You know, like if you really are dying for just like a regular noodle, because sometimes it happens, like you just want to have more of a normal thing. So get your gluten-free noodles, but add more veggies to like the pasta. Put onions, put mushrooms, you know, do that kind of stuff. So you're adding more veggies and more fiber in there, so it's not going to spike your blood sugar as fast because the other stuff you're adding to it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Any tips of non-canned tomato sauce? I'm a picky eater, so I kind of do my own tomato sauce. I use the tomatoes, and then I Vitamix leftover vegetables and then puree them and throw them in. But I mean, how do I get kind of something of that consistency rather than boiling and Vitamixing? I mean, is anything else on the market? Like
I know there's some actually in glass. You're going to pay an arm and a leg for them, but they're
just plain sauce rather than the pastas.
Yeah, I've actually seen very small selection. What's it at? Wasn't at Trader Joe's. It might have been at Fresh Market.
Okay.
I saw berries and I was like, oh, they're finally getting it.
Got it.
Yeah. So if you do, you know, lack of time or something, there's that route.
Selling them in boxes now too.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah. Yeah. Just, I mean, I know those are lined, so just, yeah, just kind of look to see what they're lined with.
Do they have to disclose if there's BPA in the lining? I mean, is it somewhere on the packaging? So all like the soft cardboard that soups are in are probably BPA?
I don't know. I really don't know about that. I just know the can. I just know when I open those, it is lined with something, and so it has something I probably should research, but I haven't yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What about salt cravings? It seemed like when my adrenal glands were blown out, I was constantly craving salt, salty food. What's that all about?
I've heard adrenal glands and sweet. I've actually heard whenever you do the carb cycling that it can help with just cravings in general, but I don't particularly remember just salt.
Because when you're thyroid, you know your adrenal glands are connected with your thyroid.
Yeah.
And for thyroid, they give you iodine. So hence the salt craving thing. So there's something connected.
Something
with
there.
that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know.
I've been low thyroid for a long time.
Yeah.
That my husband had to watch his salt, so I was cutting back, and I was like down, and then somebody said something about iodized salt, and I started to salt my stuff, and it made me feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Cool.
me too.
It's unbelievable.
More salt.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. What I found interesting too is that sometimes whenever people feel like they have low thyroid, that it could actually be a problem with the adrenal glands, because like I was saying at the very beginning, that the thyroid could actually be pumping out all the hormones that it needs, but if the adrenal gland isn't releasing that cortisol properly to open that door so that hormone can get in the cell, well, now we think we gotta fix the thyroid, when it's really, like you said, they work hand in
Most
hand.
doctors address the thyroid. They don't address the adrenal glands. They want to put you on thyroid medication.
Yeah. And like hydrocortisone, you know, that's prescribed, and to my understanding, it doesn't really need to be prescribed unless there's something like like Addison's disease, where the adrenal gland just does not produce cortisol. And in that case, yeah, you got to have some cortisol. So yeah, let's take some IV, you know, or some intravenous cortisol. But if cortisol is being produced, it's like, let's dig further and see why, you know, this thing over here isn't reading that guy over there. That sort of thing.
Is there any good reference? Like my husband was with me last Thursday. He's not here, but
I'm sorry.
That's all right. But you know, it's any good reference books or literature.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the type 2, but I want to, you know, just say stop drinking all those soft drinks, stop eating all that crap.
Type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, so he's way overweight.
Yeah.
But then as
Okay.
far as self-educating to improve his life,
Adrenal reset.
reset diet.
Yeah, Dr. Alan Christensen is really quite brilliant when it comes to thyroid health and adrenal health. So yeah,
So
I reference this a lot. You can see on my little flags. I reference this a lot
What's the
whenever.
author's name? I'm sorry.
Dr. Alan Christensen.
So is there any way of testing your adrenal function, or is it just, I feel sluggish, something's not right?
You can,
The way
you
you
can
can
test
test it,
cortisol levels.
You can?
know, and Miss Debbie over here actually brought stuff for this question.
I got an adrenal gland test.
Where do you buy those?
I got that at Innovative Medical Solutions when I was a patient there.
But you can, yeah, you can test saliva, hair, urine, or
Yeah.
even
But
blood.
that tests your adrenal glands, it's very reliable. It's for sale.
I have a soy question
No,
for
I
you.
will sell these
So my
too.
son, in his preschool class, they've got a kid with a nut allergy, so I give him soy butter like 3 days a week. It's like peanut butter and jelly sandwich, except I use the soy nut butter, or soy butter. So is there something you would recommend? Like, I just bought a whole little thing from Whole Foods of
Yeah.
soy butter.
Yeah, yeah, especially for little boys, it's hard. Soy is hard on little boys because it's so high in estrogen. I've even heard of some documents where babies come in with breast buds and they've been on soy milk. It's like, because of the estrogen.
Right.
Let me think.
Any kind of alternative testing like this, I don't believe that insurance covers.
So you do like
How much are
a butter and jelly,
I paid
Yes,
$3.60
uh-huh.
for two.
And we got a nut
But I
allergy,
will
so
sell
I'm
you cheaper
trying.
than that.
and not you, it's because
Yeah, because another kid in the class has a nut allergy.
Do I
which
get
is so common.
26?
None of that.
How much?
Okay, so like almond milk's, almond butter's out, cashew butter's
Yeah.
out.
Of the, yeah.
130.
I'll have to think about this one. Let me think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe something will come up.
Yeah, the results
All right.
will be. Oh, yeah.
Do what?
It's the most important thing, you've got health before you, when you eat all this, if your gut isn't healthy and
There's, see, how whacked out I was at that time.
Yeah, it's a big component of
We
it.
need to really start
It's
there
like-
first and eat like fermented food.
Yeah, it has all the instructions
that our body
what you need to do.
Yeah, because the inflammation from the wheat and from the dairy and all that kind of stuff is going to come from the gut first. You know, and that's where the most of our immune system is at, is in the gut. And so if it starts calling Mayday to the rest of the body,
Maybe it is, and we don't even know it.
do what?
Maybe it is, and we don't know it, because it's not absorbing things properly.
Oh, right, that's what I'm saying.
Scott Grove, call the office.
Is that you? No, I'm kidding. I was like, was he calling you? No, I don't think so.
I don't think,
I'm just teasing you.
test certain times of the day.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's why I was saying, like, to eliminate the inflammatory, the highest inflammatory food would be good first, you know. And
And
of
that's
course,
really the main thing to start with.
I got this at Whole Foods.
in my opinion, yeah, but I also know different people have different lifestyles, you know what I mean? Like, and if they just cannot change that right now, well then disconnect from media before you go to bed. You know, to at least start relieving the stress that will also cause inflammation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, of course, the inflammatory foods that you're going to consume all day, that's going to be your fuel, would be great. But if that's just not feasible for you right now, then try something else. You know, but then keep making that a snowball change.
We're doing potassium fermenting again.
I'll be there. I already RSVP.
I too, I went to this first one, it was very interesting. I had already researched it before I went to the class, but it was interesting.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a Monday, Tuesday night or something.
Tuesday 6 to 7:30.
Yes, coming up. Fermenting.
Oh, yes, I saw
Fermenting
that.
sauerkraut and.
Is,
I'm excited.
Susan's husband?
I was at the point.
I've never been there.
No,
Oh.
Susan's been to the class. This is the guy that's done it for 10 years on his own, and it's great. Did you go?
Have you opened the soy butter yet?
No, I haven't.
was
I
like,
just
take
bought
it back.
I just bought it from Whole Foods yesterday.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I was like, take it back.
yeah.
They'll take it back.
I mean, he's been, we used it all throughout his class last year too, but he only goes through it so.
Yeah, kids are the challenge. But I've never had that question before. You can't do that, so right. We gotta get real creative here. It might just have to be a meat thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, lunch meat isn't the greatest for you, but you gotta do what you gotta do. You know, with all my research, I was telling somebody in a previous class, like, I can probably tell you something bad about every single food on the planet.
Right.
And eventually you just have to be like, you know, I have to eat. You know, I'm like, what's the worst of the worst? I just have to be somewhere where I can live and not go nuts.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. What is your name?
Crystal?
Crystal. Okay.
Spelled the same way?
Yeah. Did you sign up twice?
I did, and I signed up, and then I think Brittany signed me up.
Oh, is
I
that
think she signed me up too, because I had emailed her, and, because I was gonna come to last week's class, and then we ended up going out of town, and I couldn't do it.
Oh, good, because I messed up the scheduling anyway.
So, there was kind of confusion between both of us, so I signed up, and then she signed me up, and then I took my name off, I canceled one, so I wasn't on here twice.
Because I'm gonna think on that one, and I might just email you if I think of something.
Okay.
I need to get you guys. I'll be right back. Let me get these papers. Thank you for coming.
Oh, I loved it. I learned something every time.
Good. And don't you work here?
Yeah, with the wine. I'm freaking out about this high protein breakfast and no eggs thing now. That's what I learned today. I'm like, oh my gosh, no eggs.
Well, it's easier if you just don't think traditional standard breakfast, because that's like their only protein source. It's like, if it's not eggs, what is it?
I know.
You know, that's why you just start with like one thing, just one thing. You know, I never want anybody to feel overwhelmed or like, you know what I mean? Like, just do one thing. If you don't want to start with the food, you still want to research, okay, well, if I went gluten-free, what would dinner look like? You know, if you're still at that, like, I'm not saying. Hold it real quick. Guys, real quick. Anybody who comes to my class, I offer them a free sample meal plan with the e-cookbook. Now, it's not exactly geared toward adrenals, but I do high protein breakfasts. It's probably 95% or 90% gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. Like I do have an Asian dish in there that uses tamari sauce versus soy sauce. I never tell anybody to throw anything away. So use up what you have, but you know, next time you go to the store, look for the better alternative. If you want that, give me your name and your email and I'll send it to you guys. If not today, then later on tomorrow. If you want it, no pressure, of course. But
Is it the same as the one you said?
it is.
Okay.
It is. I don't have a ton of them.
Well, I didn't know. After you had a second one, I'll send them.
Yeah. And you guys have it. You guys have it. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Just put your
Yeah.
name and your email as legibly as you can. If you can. Cool. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you very much.
I thought I heard that cruciferous vegetables were not good for your thyroid. Is that true?
I know they're not good with IBS.
I know they got bloating, like
Right.
and the cauliflower.
Right. You gotta cook it. You gotta cook it.
So as long as it's cooked, I already have a recipe.
With IBS. But thyroid, I've never heard that. I've never heard that. But also just use your own experiment. Like, you know, I wouldn't have taught corn here, but you already knew. You know, like you're your body's best doctor. You know what I mean? Like if you really tune into kind of what's going on, you can figure out a lot of stuff.
Like if you eat something and you have a reaction to it, that's
Right.
what you're talking about, right?
Right, either bloating or you eat dinner or you eat lunch and you're just like, I could just fall asleep right here. That's a sign that you're not, something's not right, you know.
Is your next class on mindfulness, or did I miss that?
It's on the ketogenic diet. Going keto.
What exactly is that? I've heard that term.
High fat, where you eat about 75 to 80% fat, and it's like the new big thing that people are trying to do, like LeBron James did keto and all, like all this stuff, you know. So we're just going to talk about like when it's necessary, why it's good, when you shouldn't do it, that kind of stuff. So in my practice and even at the hospital, I'm getting a lot of keto and keto clients, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, so we're just going to come and talk about that.
Where is your practice?
It is everywhere. When I have people here, yes, when I have people here, we can meet up, but I have clients all over the country, and we just meet up online. You know, so there's no babysitters, there's no traffic. Sure. It's pretty awesome. We can meet. It's great.
Thank you so
You
much.
could. Or just pajama pants, like have a nice shirt here.
I was sniped. Okay, definitely not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And now I know your name. I won't mention it now. If I think it's something. Breakfast is the best, but you don't think like breakfast is delicious. Like we do like a
Yes, you can buy that in the
a
store.
sweet potato. That's okay. Sweet potato hash. Like we'll just grind those sweet potatoes or shred sweet potatoes.
Right, that's
just put chicken in.
Yeah, Bruce wants to buy some from it.
Well, I don't think so. Meatloaf and eggs, I'll make meatloaf a lot.
It's like
If there's anything I put eggs, then yes.
I've
Yeah, then I'll put actually 2 eggs instead of one.
I
That's
like
because I can't do the cracker or whatever, because one of them, a couple of them are free, and so I just don't love the eggs. But then,
Just don't
for
use it.
this, I don't do eggs.
Just don't do it.
And
Like one time I did not have eggs, but I had everything from my slope on my wall.
And it's in New York City.
It still can deal because you take it from, you know, your bowl and just to the left of your thing, you just lump it together.
I like a lot of things that
What's last night? I just looked at his book the other day. But anyway, he,
cookies are baked or whatever numbers you make it a bunch, but.
I like cookies too.
well,
Yeah.
raw recipes. And I
Yeah.
actually had a chart, his most popular one is the one I want to made with turkey. And it has a decent
They
flavor.
are, but some people, and like.
In moderation.
Like if you don't know, start with eggs, don't start with eggs.
That has been
Start with gluten, start with dairy. If eggs kind of blow your mind at first, and then when people get more stressed.
Yeah, it's not like we eat bolos eggs, I mean, it is a lot, so I just didn't know, like, you know, just keep eating eggs. What's the purpose of not eating this?
Because it's inflammatory for a lot, so it's fun.
So, but then it may not be.
For you.
Yeah, and so it's
not
not
the
the
same
same.
thing.
Is that,
Yeah, so it might want to say that here, still, like if you
sure
get rid of here, and then if you get rid of gluten and you feel good,
Right.
then it's like, okay, maybe those are just like body, you just keep.
Right, trigger foods.
Right.
The fermenting, what's special about fermenting? That's like what you want.
Fermenting doesn't have as much of protein and as high of the estrogen content, like
even though in the recipe
and so like
that I use
like
for my
fermenting
book,
of the vegetables and macros, it's also better to help your gut, it helps, you know, helps grow that good bacteria that helps your immune system
But,
be strong.
I do
It also
have-
helps when your good bacteria is flourishing, it can help heal the bad.
yeah, so that's, matter of fact, I'm
Get
starting
rid
to
of
work
the bad stuff, but you're also get the good stuff that helps your gut.
That's what I tell my kids, I said, well,
What about chocolate?
I do dark chocolate, like 80% or above.
Like your swirl of it, and they're younger.
If you want a square, if you want like a square meal,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'm like extreme, like, several pieces of my Hollister's chocolate sponge cake in a day.
I mean, I do.
Like at least 2 a day. Yeah. against my fat. So, and then, any more chocolate than that, that's just fine. Yeah.
And so you see what you do as a whole, and then just kind of portion, just to wean yourself off. Yeah, just a portion, and then you'll get used to that amount of portion, and then you can, then it's like a miso batter.
Do you do any paleo? No. You don't use.
Oh, talk?
No, you personally don't. I just didn't know your family, if there's any paleo-ish kind of. Because when she was saying how she's on sugar now, like, and I heard you say that.
I'm not forgetting about you.
And I'm like,
Yeah, because they put cravings are good. I say sugar, I guess the chocolate is known as sugar, I guess.
yeah. Because I don't.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, this is brownie.
Well, just
It's like a
brownie.
brownie.
My husband and his family,
Yeah, well, it's-
allergies, I started this.
But it's, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bother me.
So it's probably the sugar.
Yeah.
It seems like, I mean, because people say, oh, this looks very good, and I'm like, you know, this none of this,
There's
this,
that,
this,
there's
like,
a class.
there's not chocolate, and I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, seriously, yeah, so I don't know,
That's the things that I do here.
actually,
Not, it's the first week of every month.
I think I have to have that, which my kids aren't, I'm raising them. So they're not as
Everyone brings a dish.
you know,
It's kind of a fun class, but that's just the people that are very different.
Yes, I
And my son's guys, sorry, I
You know, and they,
But you guys have figured out so much on your own, and have come a long way, in health models, health.
yeah, to each his own. I mean,
You guys got on to it a lot.
Are you talking about just our one conversation when we were in Texas? Yeah, well, now you just, they never suggested, you know, of course, try to get on food, and, you know, I thought, I'm interested in that.
My daughter kept having her issues at their.
And then the one that worked.
You was your son, right?
Yeah, kind of sound this allergist today, but okay, I'm sorry. Yes, it's not like. Well, couldn't sing at church. Yeah. I mean, not up there with people. And I stopped, stopped film dares, first dairy. And man, it just all their stuff issues, and I always stopped one time. And I always like, I always like all of them.
It's just
All dairy, all dairy, yeah. And then, when the others kept having this, they were really hot, the gluten and the that helped them with, you know, for the rest of the thing. My one daughter keeps having this really, and she's always studying it, you know, I'm like, I don't know, I've got here what's going on, and it's something different than gluten free, she's not gluten, so I don't know what, she's been comes little thing, I'm like, and I need to go take her home and get tested or something, maybe, I don't know, but, and that costs money, so I have to. So I'm like, I was trying to figure out a mom.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not going to so far, sounds like.
Jonathan and Rob.
We can align together.
Well, I've done it 3 times. I'm like, first time I've ever.
I know, you're like, exercise gives you energy.
That's
I've never tried my life. I'm like, this is what do you
How do you
think
feel?
about? I'm like, well, I mean,
Have you not
I'm
tried?
yeah, I'm not there yet. Because afterwards, they're all like, well, I'm like, are y'all about money? I'm like, well,
And I'm not that way.
Is your-
And I can't touch
You're better off having
myself.
something to do.
yeah, that's just.
Sometimes.
I was so surprised to hear you say about the gluten-free products. They're not really. But, and I just like crackers and chips and stuff, and the pasta, we're always really, gluten-free, or wheat-free, but.
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to, the one time you should ever avoid like organic and gluten-free and stuff is when it comes in, when it's a.
We all do.
It's it's like,
Joe, we're
It's
not
still-
vanilla.
it's still a chip. You know, you're not doing better. I mean, you are inflammatory wise, but I think a lot of people who like me, like a gluten-free chip or anything.
And it's okay.
Very light, right, it's healthy for you, but it's still a chip. Like, no, it's.
So I know
From that,
Really?
I was wanting to gain some information about your adrenals here.
I hope you did.
Yes, that's why I came. But like 2.5 years ago, my husband and I changed our eating.
Well, I don't know if they
Right,
know
well,
that,
bacteria,
but there's a lot of them agree
Yeah.
with
Both spots, 24 pounds.
They kind of go from very good to ours.
But in the last year, I've gained like
The
12 pounds.
genealogy, because it's
And I don't know why.
haven't changed it.
I'll have to look for it.
You changed something.
It's pretty good loss, because later on someone's gonna want
It could be sneaking back in.
That's what it
And
is.
sometimes you do kind of feel like, hey, somebody sounds off, you feel off.
Yeah, I do find that traveling.
Oh my God. Traveling's hard. You gotta plan. You know, just, even if you don't want baby carrots, throw baby carrots in the cooler, it's there.
It's fun.
To have, you know,
I mean, if this is
Right.
looking
And
at
it's like,
letters
you
that
know,
someone did, and
doctor
they
to say,
kind of put it on the typewriter,
or something.
it's on the split paper. Or
We'll
like this,
try
too.
the carb,
Get
try the
someplace
carb
right after the
cycling.
first
You're
class.
not, you're not restricting yourself, you're just putting it in.
the hormone side,
Is your sleeping good?
and I wasn't ready to do that
Just
yet,
not
so I haven't gotten very far, but I've got
Lately,
lately,
as in,
Years, but I forgot to send your mom, I said mine's years, but that's different.
A month or so maybe. And
well,
also,
that might be something.
Oh, does she?
You know, here is that, she's one or something.
Oh.
she
1 month or
probably not much.
crazy with that?
Word.
Has life been crazy?
Yeah, sometimes. And also the thing about like, you know, your iPad or your phone or whatever,
Well, this
you know,
is-
I'll do that right at bedtime sometimes.
I feel like it's like
I
part of
need-
our culture. And you roll over and you're anyway,
Or if I'm up at night, you know, because I can't sleep, I'll do that on my email.
yeah.
I know.
And that prevents.
Kidding.
I know.
Yeah. So you should start there. Make sure at least you're sleeping well, because actually, if you're not sleeping well, it actually raises your because you only get energy from 2 ways, or food and your sleep. Well, if sleep is lacking, if sleep is lacking, then your body's gonna be like, well, we need energy, she didn't sleep last night, so give me more calories, because I need more energy.
She's gone over the country, or the East Coast, that's where the dance is from.
She's
She's gone to all these
sleep.
places, and she can go
But
to
then,
Wisconsin, but I'm not willing to do that. I just thought I'd try to get her next day then, because I mean, when my children, Donnie children, they retired in college, my brother and sister, and Sonia,
Right, but anyway, I remember hearing you say on your thing
That's
on your
so
Facebook,
busy
you said,
anyway.
nobody's ever
Well,
heard
maybe I'll
of
see some other classes. Yes.
It's a whole thing.
But the guys,
You never know.
he's interesting, and I think it'll be interesting. I'm just glad some of those things he's gonna do with some to learn. Do you want to?
Thank you guys for joining us. If you want a copy of a free meal plan, go to truehealthrd.com and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
And I might